The theater lights dimmed as the final murmurs of the restless crowd faded into a tense hush. All eyes turned toward the lone figure walking onto the stage, a tall black man in a midnight blue suit, the shine of his polished shoes catching the spotlights. His name was David Ellison. To those who truly knew music, he was a gifted jazz vocalist with a range that could melt the hardest heart. But tonight, at the prestigious Grand Regency Gala, most of the audience had never heard of him, and some had already decided they didn't want to. David carried only a simple microphone and the calm dignity of a man who had spent his life chasing beauty in sound. He bowed slightly to the sea of tuxedos and glittering gowns. "Good evening," he said, his voice deep and warm. A low, sarcastic whistle cut through the air. A cluster of men in the third row smirked. Someone in the balcony muttered, "Another experiment." The words slithered across the room like smoke. David's jaw tightened, but he didn't respond. The pianist struck the opening chord of an old standard, smooth, slow, elegant. David took a breath and began to sing. The first notes were velvet. But before he could reach the second verse, a harsh sound broke the spell. Booing. It started with a single voice and quickly grew into a jagged chorus. A woman in pearls shook her head, as if insulted by the music itself. A man near the aisle whispered loudly, "Not the right fit for this stage." The disapproval swelled, an ugly tide. David kept singing. His eyes remained on a distant point above the audience, as if he were singing to the rafters, not the people. But inside, each jeer was a blade. Memories surfaced. Childhood recitals where his talent was questioned, smoky clubs where his skin color decided the set list. He steadied his breathing, his voice unwavering. Behind the curtain, stage manager Carla gripped her headset. "Should we cut it?" someone asked. "No," she said firmly. "Let him finish." Halfway through the song, the doors at the back of the grand hall opened quietly. Secret Service agents slipped in first, scanning the room. Then, a figure that made even the wealthiest guests rise to their feet, the President of the United States, arriving unannounced. The crowd froze in shock. David didn't see the entrance. He was lost in the music. His final note hung in the air, rich and aching. For a heartbeat, silence claimed the room. Then came the sound again, boos, scattered but sharp. The president's voice cut through them like a bell. "Stop!" Every head turned. The president stepped into the aisle, his face set in a hard line. "Is this," he asked, his words measured and unmistakable, "how we treat an American artist?" A ripple of unease swept the audience. Cameras from the press pool flickered to life. The president walked toward the stage. "Mr. Ellison," he said, using the singer's name as if they were old acquaintances, "would you honor us with another song?" David blinked, finally registering the figure standing before him. He lowered the microphone slightly. "Mr. President," he began, voice steady but filled with disbelief, "it would be my honor." The boos evaporated, replaced by a heavy, expectant silence. The pianist looked at David, waiting. David nodded once. A new melody began, soft, resilient, like dawn breaking over a weary city. This time, David's voice soared. He sang of struggle and triumph, of rivers crossed and dreams unbroken. The sound filled every corner of the grand hall, wrapping even the coldest hearts in warmth. The same men who had jeered earlier now sat transfixed, their expressions shifting from skepticism to something closer to shame. When the last note faded, the president was the first to stand. His applause thundered, echoing off marble and brass. One by one, the audience followed. Hesitant at first, then fervent, until the hall shook with the force of it. David bowed, his eyes glistening. He wasn't thinking of revenge or validation. He was thinking of his grandmother's kitchen in Georgia, where gospel hymns had first taught him the power of a voice. He was thinking of every closed door and every quiet night spent believing his music mattered, even if no one listened. After the performance, the president joined David backstage. Away from the crowd, he extended his hand. "You reminded everyone tonight what America is supposed to sound like," he said. "Don't ever stop." Reporters swarmed the next morning. Headlines blazed across the country. Singer booed, then called back by president. News anchors replayed the clip of the president halting the jeers and asking for an encore. Social media lit up with praise for David's composure and the breathtaking power of his second song. But David returned to his small apartment that night in quiet reflection. He thought of the crowd's swift transformation, from contempt to admiration, and how fragile their respect felt. He knew the applause wasn't the point. The point was that he had refused to shrink. Weeks later, the Grand Regency Gala invited him back for a special concert. He declined. Instead, he scheduled free performances at community centers and veterans' hospitals, places where music healed instead of judged. One evening, as he packed up after a neighborhood concert, Carla, the stage manager from that fateful night, approached him. "I've worked shows for 20 years, she said softly. "I've never seen courage like that. You didn't just sing. You held up a mirror." David smiled, the same calm dignity in his eyes as the night he first walked onto the Grand Regency stage. "Music," he said, "isn't about the audience liking you. It's about telling the truth. Sometimes the truth makes people uncomfortable before it sets them free." And somewhere in the echo of that unforgettable encore, in the hush that followed the president's simple request, the nation had heard a truth it couldn't ignore. That greatness isn't granted by applause, but revealed when a single voice refuses to be silenced.